When I came to Japan about 2 years ago, I brought two things with me: dreams and tea bags. And whilst the number of tea bags declined gradually throughout the following weeks and months through relentless consumption, the dreams met their demise far more rapidly and far more aggressively. I was just completely disillusioned with learning Japanese. I'd never learnt the language before coming to Japan, and I just assumed I would magically pick it up in a month or two and it'd be magical, wonderful, and just magical even more. It didn't happen. The thing that gave me hope was the people I met along the way who had done it before me, who gave me advice, and my own discoveries that I made through the process of self-study. And today I want to give the advice and knowledge and things that I've acquired along the way in the last 2 years and give it to you with the hope that you can get off to a better start than I did. And finally, some of you might be wondering why this video is 9 tips to learning Japanese as opposed to 10 tips, which is far more aesthetically pleasing. And the answer is, I just get excited about number 9. Well, that, and it's the number of kilograms of chocolate I eat on a daily basis to overcome the stress of learning 2,200 kanji characters and how to read them. Honestly, it's like a Willy Wonka induced fucking nightmare in here. Learning a language like Japanese is difficult, and it does take a lot of time, and for that reason many people give up early on or just don't even start altogether. And in my own case, I pretty much gave up learning Japanese about a month in after I just kept failing to remember things. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember the vocabulary, the phrases, the characters. And then I realised that the main problem I was facing was the same problem that had plagued me for the last 20 years, and it was my memory. I didn't know how to use it. I'd never used it properly or intensely on this scale before. So I took a month off from studying Japanese and I bought half a dozen books on memory, and I spent about a month just learning about how my memory worked, why I'd been failing for the past 20 years, and most importantly how to use it and how to prepare it for learning Japanese. And seeing the genuine massive improvement in my memory across that month-long period was extremely motivating and really got me through those first few months of learning Japanese, which to my mind are the toughest. Try and diagnose your weak points. Maybe it's your memory, maybe it's your confidence, maybe it's your motivation. Overcome them and then dive back into learning Japanese, because if you get off to a bad start early on, then you'll just be demotivated, you'll just give up, and you won't want to learn anymore. If you're really serious about learning Japanese, start learning the kanji early on. As soon as you've got hiragana and katakana out the way, which take a matter of weeks to do. The reason is, the sooner you become accustomed to the kanji and the sooner you get them into your head, the sooner you feel comfortable reading and writing Japanese. Not being able to read the kanji is really difficult and frustrating, particularly if you don't know what they mean or how to write them, because then you can't look them up on your phone and see what it actually means. Perhaps most importantly, it's like a jigsaw effect. You'll learn a new word and then you'll learn the kanji. They'll come together quite naturally, and it'll all just come together and you'll start being able to read quite quickly. Another piece of advice is learn the kanji separately from their readings and quickly work your way through as many kanji as you can, get them into your head, because as long as you understand the meaning, that takes care of a lot of problems. And if you can understand how to write them, you can look them up on your phone when you encounter them in your daily life. I talked about it in a previous video called Remembering the Kanji, and it's based on a book by someone called James Hasig. It's a very popular method and I encourage you to go and have a look at it. But in short, learn the kanji early on and learn them separately for the vocabulary. Well, after you've started memorising them, you start seeing them about and you can suddenly ascribe meaning to them in your daily life. It becomes quite motivating, it becomes quite exciting. But like the vocabulary, you will start to forget them quite quickly if you don't revise them or don't review them. And especially if you're living outside Japan, this could be a big problem. I hate forgetting things. It's basically the equivalent of just throwing away time. And time is the second most important resource we have after pictures of silly animals. But there is genuinely a way or a tool that stops you from forgetting things, and it's called a SRS tool, Spaced Repetition System tool. And I talked about it in a previous video. Basically, you input the information you're learning throughout the week on a daily basis, and then at a later date, the information will pop up again on your smartphone or laptop or whatever you're using, and you can revise and review the information so you don't forget it over a sustained period of time. But to learn Japanese, you need to know thousands of words and thousands of characters, and if you're not using them on a daily basis after you've learnt them, then you will just forget them. And using an SRS tool solves that problem because you'll be revising and reviewing the information so regularly that it stays in your head. If you have a smartphone, you can have it on you all day, and when you've got a bit of free time, you can pull it out and just start revising and reviewing the information. Everyone I know who is learning Japanese or has learned Japanese has used a spaced repetition system tool to get there. My personal favourite is an app called Anki. There are others. I use Anki because that's what everyone else was using when I turned up here. But there are plenty of other ones. For example, there's a new one called Memorise, which is pretty good. But either way, if you don't use one, it will be pretty difficult to learn Japanese. It will take a lot longer, and you're missing out on the fast track to memorising lots of information. The most popular old-fashioned way of learning something is by rote learning, where you repeatedly write something out again and again until it sticks, until it's stuck in your head. Unfortunately, whilst rote learning does actually work, it's very slow, it's very tedious, and it is worse than this 91 yen hot dog I bought earlier this afternoon, which on closer inspection after buying it looks absolutely disgusting, and I regret buying it. But by using our creative imaginations and mnemonics, we're able to memorise information a lot more easily and a lot more effectively. And one of the most popular methods is the link method. So for example, I might use the link method to learn some vocabulary or a new character. And the aim of the link method is to find a link between the word you're learning and a word or a sound or something from your own language. For example, the Japanese word for like is ski. In this case, you could say, I like to ski, I like to ski, and create that image, that link between skiing and something you like doing. Or for the Japanese word for suburbs, which is kogai. That cool guy lives in the suburbs. That cool guy lives in the suburbs. It does work, it really does work. And drawing it out also helps as well. And Memorise, the website I mentioned earlier, uses this concept, and users can actually create their own memes and share them with other people. And it makes the whole process of learning vocabulary quite simple, and in some cases even quite fun. Immersion is probably the most overused word I find when it comes to language learning, and it was the reason that I assumed I would pick up Japanese just by being immersed in Japanese culture. It would magically just happen. And obviously if you live in Japan, then you're at a big advantage because you've got television, lots of cheap manga, comic books, everyday conversation. But if you don't live in Japan, there's still plenty of tools at your disposal. For example, Wikipedia. The Wikipedia section has plenty of Japanese. There's some great anime on YouTube. But most importantly of all, when you do read or hear a new word, look it up and learn it and then input it into your SRS system, because that way you won't forget it and you'll be able to rapidly progress. And if you look up something as soon as you've learnt it, from personal experience I tend to find I remember it better because I have the context around it. And focus on inputting Japanese, not outputting too early on. If you start outputting loads of Japanese early on, you'll be making lots of mistakes. It won't be natural Japanese. It makes me really angry that people always say, oh, start using your Japanese early on. Start now, use it now. Go and make an idiot of yourself now. God, it makes me angry. So as soon as you've learned some new grammar or some vocabulary, you should really try and use it as quickly as possible. And I guess a fairly obvious thing here is to find a native Japanese speaking partner. And I made the mistake of not really having many in my first year, admittedly. I was too busy focused reading out of a book than actually practicing with actual Japanese people. But if you live in Japan, it shouldn't be difficult to find a good speaking partner. If you live outside Japan, granted, it is more difficult, but thanks to computers and the internet, it's becoming more popular for people to do video chat. It shouldn't be too difficult to find a Japanese speaker on Skype or online who is willing to exchange Japanese with you, and perhaps you can exchange your own language with them. But once you've used what you've learned, you'll become more confident using it, and it'll enter your long-term subconscious memory, and it'll be like a magic. Japan is still very much a paper-based society. They use this thing called a fax machine. But the reason paper and writing and drawing is essential is because there is so many characters to learn, it's quite easy to forget them. And especially if you're a new learner to Japanese, if you don't keep writing out the characters, be it hiragana, katakana or kanji, you will forget them quite quickly. For example, I've already forgotten how to write many katakana characters. Hiragana, okay, even kanji, okay, but katakana I haven't practiced recently, I've forgotten them, gonna have to learn them again. But if you are able to write out the characters, then you're definitely able to read them. Reading them becomes really easy. So write out the characters, grow accustomed to writing them, and enjoy writing them. But I spend about an hour every day writing out kanji characters, A, to remember them, and B, because it's actually quite fun and quite therapeutic. Learning a language shouldn't be about passing tests or exams, but if you do aim to take the JLPT Japanese Language Proficiency test, be it level 1 or level 5, you'll have thousands of words you'll need to learn and thousands of characters you'll need to learn to get there. If you set a target for aiming for the JLPT test, then you have a tangible target to actually aim for, and it will motivate you to set aside the time during the day to learn 20 new words or 20 new characters during the day as well. In my own case, I'm aiming to take the N2 test later this year in December, and I've still got a long way to go. I might even fail, probably will fail, but along the way I've learned thousands of words, thousands of characters that I use in everyday conversation, everyday life in Japan anyway. Regardless of if you pass or fail, you'll still have learned thousands of words and characters and be able to appreciate Japanese literature or Japanese TV and film, and most importantly be able to speak to Japanese people as well. So I hope you've learned something in the last 9 or 10 minutes from this video. Please feel free to Please feel free to send me your questions, and please follow on Twitter and Facebook, as there'll be some articles coming out in the coming weeks, and it's the best way to notify you about them. Have a great day. I'm gonna eat this banana now. The best thing about banana... Oh shit.
Finished! Yeah! Come in here, come and look at this. I finished a whole nother book. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I live alone.
And most importantly of all, be able to respond in Japanese in a quick and effective manner.
晩ご飯何しようかな。
マクドナルド。
またそれ。